I'm Gabriel. I'm a support engineer at Carto. So I'm part of the support team, which we are the ones that deal with clients, deal with users, and actually support internally. We help out with the platform. We develop for the platform. It's literally support all around. We go from very high technical server, improvements to going into our UI, and it's really full stack. So front end, back end, and when you're a Carto user, you get contact with our team, so we can go as deep as you want, or just learning how to use the builder overall. So it's literally everything. And you can just contact us if you have any issues, or if you want to figure out how you want to use Carto in some way, we can help you out with that. So again, full stack team. So you're not just, you can contact us and ask us all the technical questions you want. So for today's workshop, we're going to be analyzing user review scoring data for Airbnb listings in Los Angeles. And we're using Carto for this. So we're going to go over different kind of analysis as we go all across this data set. And for these specific slides, you can come after and we can email you them. As you can see, there's two links there, the Airbnb data set that we're going to be using today. And plus, this whole example is documented on our website. So you can go step by step if you want to recreate it later, because I will be going a little bit just because of, to show the full ability of Carto, but you can recreate it yourself. And the data set's there, everything's there for you. So let's get started. And very quickly about what approach we're going to take for this. We are going to be using H3 for this. So for some people that don't know H3, H3s are hexagons, geomes, that are basically a nice way to get in data analysis on like points that are overlapping over each other within a specific area. So they're like basically like quad keys, if you understand quad keys, but we're going to be using H3 in these examples. And we'll see, because Airbnb listing data is really all over the place. They're right on top of each other, there's a lot of density there. So we're going to use H3 to help us understand this data. And then specifically, we're going to be using our analytics toolbox for this. So besides just providing a UI, we actually provide analysis functions that are easily able you to create H3 geomes, quad keys, all these integrated into your data. And so enough of me talking about this, and let's get started. So when you create a Carto account, this is the first thing you see. This is the home screen. You see all your recent maps. You see what's happening in the platform. And then on the left, you get the home screen, maps, data explorer, data observatory, connections, applications, and settings. So to start, we're just going to go to our data explorer. Our data explorer is where all your data is going to be housed. So this includes, in every single Carto account, we have a Carto data warehouse. This is a cloud data service that we provide for free for every single account. If you go inside of here, you see that you can have your data in here, it's being shared, and then you have demo data, which is, if you've seen our examples like these, all the data would be in here. So you have it for you automatically. And then the other thing we have is actually a BigQuery connection. And this is actually from an external cloud service provider. So you can easily get a cloud service provider plugged in right into Carto and be able to look inside the table, and look inside all the data sets within, which specifically we're going to be using this Carto Academy and this project and these data sets in here. But how do you create a connection? So it's as easy as we're going to go to, on the left side, our connections tab, clicking connections. And this is where all our connections for Cloud Data Warehouse are held. So right here, we have our BigQuery connection, and create a connection is easy as clicking this button, new connection. We have the 5 cloud data providers we have available right now: BigQuery, Databricks, Postgres, Redshift, Snowflake. Today, we're going to do a BigQuery one. So we're going to click BigQuery, and we have 2 options: a service account or a sign in Google. So for a service account, for all of you that don't know, it's a easy credential JSON that is available for BigQuery. So you can generate this JSON credentials and connect to your BigQuery project that way. Or you can use the Google sign-in for that BigQuery project. So we're going to use the sign-in. And then right away, we're going to be using my Carto account that's connected to my BigQuery connection. I'm going to name it, test connection. And then deciding what project that all my query that I'm going to be using in Carto is going to be added to. So I'm going to put this project right here, and then just put connect. And as easy as that, I made a connection to my BigQuery data service. And so to be able to see what's in this, what's in my project for BigQuery, I just go back to my Data Explorer, because remember, this is where all my data is held and where I can look at it. It's right here, my test connection. I drop down, and I see all my projects in here that's connected to it. So as easy as that, we just had a data connection. You can do this for Redshift, all the providers that we saw. Besides just seeing the data, we can actually import data into those connections themselves. So if you go here into our import button, you can import through your local file or through a URL. And we also provide auto-guessing. Auto-guessing is when you import data, we actually are able to get the column types and guess, like, if you have a date-time column, you can make it into a date-time instead of a string. So we try to get as much information from the data as possible and make the schema for it. So for this example, we're going to be using a URL right here. And then we're going to go back to our slides and go to that Airbnb data set right here, copy it, go back to the workspace, and just copy and paste it into here, and just put continue. So right here, we're going to name this data set. We're going to call it Airbnb listings. And then when you click here, you actually see all of your connections. So here's our test connection. Here's the workshop connection we were going to use for this example, and our Carto data warehouse. So let's use the workshop connection. And right here, we're going to put it into the same project that we are going to be using. So we go here, we have our listings here, and then we're going to say, in this folder, put in this data set that I took from a URL. We put save here, and you get a summary of what you want to do, and we put import. And as this imports, you can just minimize this right now, and you can see that this is working. This is getting imported up here. You can continue to use Carto while you import stuff, so it's as easy as that. And we're actually importing this into a BigQuery project, not within a Carto data warehouse, but in your connection when you make it. And so when you open this up, it's been imported correctly, and you were able to see the Airbnb listing data set right here. And so if you go to your BigQuery project, you're able to see the same exact data set. We just provide you a nice UI to be able to look at it. So this is a data preview of this table. You can do this for any data set that you got imported into your connections. So first up, we get a map, a very, very simple map just to get a general idea of the data set we're going to be dealing with. So this is Los Angeles, and these are all the Airbnbs. You get the number of rows within this table, and you get the table size as well. And then in data preview, you actually get the rows, and you can see the auto guessing coming into here. You can see if the right column type was added to your row, or maybe turn off auto guessing off if you don't see it done correctly. But you can see here we correctly put all these as numbers, which they are, and then we have a geom column right here, which correctly identified. So let's create a map. So for this example, we're going to be using the exact same data set, just named a little different, but it's exactly the same one. And creating a map is as simple as clicking on this top right button, create a map. And this opens up to our Carto builder. The Carto builder, oh, my browser just crashed. Sorry about that. I will, 1 second. Let me just connect really quickly. Sorry about that. And while I talk, while I get this set up, Cole, can you help and explain a little bit about Carto while I... Yeah, so Carto basically take data, we analyze that data, and make maps from it. It's kind of this kind of we're able to take your data, enrich it with our data. We've got over 10,000 data sets that you can now take your data and use what we have to then create these maps. A lot of companies are coming to us, like a logistics company right now, in terms of gas prices. So they're coming to us for like optimization, how they can save time and money, during their trip, and how they're able to, because of the shortages with drivers as well, or they're able to cut out certain routes and just have the one truck taking this time and going through the route to make it optimize time and money. Okay. Yep. Yep. Sorry about that. Mozilla on this time. Mozilla. So again, we're in the data set. Let's create a map. Simple as create a map. Click this button, and it leads us to our Carto builder, which Mozilla is not cooperating right now. You know what? Let's just use Brave. Yeah, Mozilla is... 1 second. It seems Mozilla is just crashing on me for some reason. Firefox is crashing on me for some reason. I don't know why. But as Cole was saying, we try to be the spatial toolbox for a lot of our customers. This includes building a UI where you can easily create maps, but also on a deeper level where you're able to create like backend, a lot of functions for backend work to create like models, spatial models for this. Second. Go. There we go. Put this back. Let's try this again. Okay, we're back. We're back. And let's create this map again. The internet is going out for me. 1 second. Cole, while I look into this, can you come up here and just talk about it a bit more? Thank you. Sorry about this, everyone. Yeah, so right now we are the only cloud-native geospatial platform out there. So basically, Carto comes and sits on top of your data warehouse. Actually, when we do this, we actually prepared a video of this demo, so we can show that as I debug it, and then midway through, I can just go in and start, like continuing it with it, and then we can explain as we go through, really quickly. So we'll do that as a fix for now. Yeah, we'll do that for now.
To geom. So for this, we're going to use our
Mm-hmm.
code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use our code. So for this, we're going to use
imported it.
To be this one right here. We click on it, and as you can.
Okay. So we're right back where we started. We imported the data set right now. We clicked it, we went to the preview of it. And we're showing the data preview. And did this part. And then right here, we're creating our map. So the map gets generated very quickly. You can see that our data set is within the map. It's easy as that. We displayed it right away, and you can hover through and see what's in each individual point. And you can zoom in. It's a working map. And to be honest with you, as is, it already is a working map. You can post this anywhere. But the reason why we want to actually make this into an H3 geome is because as we zoom in, you see how these points are right on top of each other, and we don't get a lot of insight into this. So for example, if they have like pricing averages, or they have different pricing around these points, we can't really see it that well, because there could be like a low price Airbnb listing in one place and a very high one. We want to get a general idea of the area around this point. So for this part, this is why we're going to create H3 geomes for this. We go around, we see the pricing of each one of them, the location, the value of the rating. So for this, we're going to go to our add sources. This is where you can create all your source information from it, and then you can import your tables or your tile sets, whatever you want, within your data connection. You can see here in our connection. But to create H3 geomes, we actually are going to run a query. We're actually going to do a SQL query from this. We're going to do a custom query SQL. And again, pick the right connection that you want to do this with within the data sets. We're picking what's our connection for this. And then type your own query right here. And then add source. So this takes us to our SQL editor. So again, you can write SQL like you would do in BigQuery, but you can do it within Carto. And you can actually import data into the map using that. So we're going back to our slides and then taking this SQL right here. We're going to break this SQL down a bit in case some people off the bat will know that this is a pretty dense SQL query. But the key for this one is this function right here. This is a specialized SQL function that within Carto we created to easily create H3 geomes. So we go back to our SQL editor, we put full screen so you can display the whole thing, and then we're going to be running this SQL here. As you can see here, the SQL, just like BigQuery, it checks if a query is run correctly, it got run correctly, and the time about it. So we're breaking down the SQL a bit. So this is the table we're importing in, we're importing from, and then we're saying, hey, for every single one of the Airbnb listings, we're using this function here, and find an H3 ID for this table. So, and we're saying the zoom level of this as well. So then we're making this into this table, H3 Airbnb table. The thing to keep in mind with this part is that since we're finding for every single point of Airbnb, we're finding an H3 ID, we're going to get duplicates, right? Because then multiple points are going to be in an H3 ID. So that's not very useful to us, because then geomes are going to be right on top of each other. So that's what we're actually doing in H3 Airbnb and in aggregate. This part is about the aggregate of them. So we're saying take this duplicate H3 IDs, we're doing a group by to get the unique H3 ID, but then we're getting the averages of the pricing, of the overall rating, the value versus price rating, claimless rating, and location rating here. And then we're removing every H3 ID that is less than 3 points in it, because that's not really relevant to our analysis. That's really something to look for. So as you can see here, we're getting overall rating, and we're rounding it out. So that's the second part of this. And then we're actually adding an extra column here too, because we want to get some information about this H3 geome. We're going to say how many points are within that geome, right? Because we care about that. If maybe one H3 geome has like 5 Airbnb listings and one has 200, right? That's a very large distinction between the two. And then finally, now that we have this aggregate, we actually need to get geomes from it. We've only been talking about IDs. So this last part is this function right here, which again is part of our Carto Analytics Toolbox. We're taking those H3 IDs and then we're actually converting them into geoms. So again, like our Annex Toolbox is not just part of the UI, but it's part of the Carto infrastructure. We try to help out as much as we can. And so from this part, we run it, and as quickly as that, we have our H3 geoms right in our map, as you can see here. And as we float around, we see the average pricing of each one of them here. And so now let's get some more information about these H3 geoms. And let's organize this a little bit more, because as you can see here, we have our layers, and we're gonna rename them to just make it a little bit friendlier. So as quickly as that is layers, you can just rename them to organize your layers, so you don't have to really like get jumbled on which layers you want to use. So use Airbnb listings, which is these points right here, and then the B one, which is our H3 geoms, we're gonna call H3 geoms. And then let's move the Airbnb listings right above. You can just click, drag, and drop right above the H3 geoms, as we saw here. And let's remove them for now. So just focus on styling these H3. So we click on that button, which is Style Options. And as you can see, we want to focus on price for this first map. So we see that the pricing of the averages of them. So you click on Veil Color. As you can see, all of the different variations of pricing. And we put color, and we put color based on. So for this, we can pick a column within your table to base the color on to show the variations of them. So again, because we're using pricing, we're going to pick pricing for this. Right there. And as quickly as that, you can see the variations of pricing across this data set. But what does it actually mean? So we actually have a legend on the bottom right that we just click, and you can see the variations between them. You can see that the yellow one is the most expensive of the Airbnb listings, while the dark ones are not so much. With this in mind, though, we want to better stylize this, because usually red means a little bit more of, and then yellow means less of. So then we click on the palette. We're going to add a little more steps to them, so it includes more variation between them, and then change the palette of them as quickly as that. And so you can see the red ones now are the most expensive Airbnb listings, and then the legend automatically changes for that use case. And let's remove the stroke for now, just to make it a little bit cleaner, this map. There you go. Yeah, that's. One thing to keep in mind while we did this is that not all these geoms colors, we are not really seeing the variation between the two, as we mentioned before. So these two geoms have the same color, but they might be representative of different listings, right? So how do we capture that? Because we know that each one of these are representative of a lot of listings or very little listings. So let's take it a little bit further and actually display this within the map so people know about these variations between these two data sets. And we're going to be using height for this. So we toggle height, and then we've made our geoms into a 3D geom now, as you can see here. And then to actually see this a little bit better, we go to map view, we go to 3D view here. You can see all the geoms in a 3D view now as quickly as that. But as you can see, they're all the same height. So that's not really useful to us right now. So again, similar to fill color, you go to more options, you go to height based, and then we're gonna choose the column that we chose before, which is total listings, which is the total listings within that H3 geom. So we click on that, and you can see now the height, the higher the geom, the more listings that there are within them. But there's still, you can't really see the variation. Like you can see a bit of them, but you don't see that much. So you can actually configure this by the height. The height is what's the maximum allowed height within those geoms. So if we increase the height, you can see those variations a lot more, as you see here. And then we can left click to go scroll around this 3D image to better see the Los Angeles area. And it's a good reason we did that, because as you can see, these are the same colors, but this has not that many listings in it, while this one has a lot. So we're capturing this, this missing part of this data set, and very easily for someone to see as quickly as that, you're able to make a 3D map using H3. And again, here with the less thing, so we can see like there's way more density within these pockets than we would otherwise be. Okay, so that takes care of our first analysis. Let's rename it as quickly as that. You can go to the top of Carto Builder, and we're renaming the map right now. Airbnb pricing analysis right there. So let's take it a little bit further though. Let's, this is one of our maps. So we're going to duplicate this map. It's easy as 3 dots up there, duplicate map, and then it'll start up another Carto Builder. And with exactly the same thing as before, our 2 sources are up here, our layers are up here, and just the name is different. We just say copy of and the name up top, but everything else should be exactly the same. We left exactly where we left off. And then we're going to actually focus on location rating now instead of pricing. So we're removing the 3D because this is another new analysis. We're removing the height. And then we're also removing the fill color, because remember, we configured this for pricing. So now we're going to configure it for location rating. So location rating is how great have people rated this Airbnb list. So as we look around, it kind of changed a bit. You can see that there is some pattern near the coast, as everyone knows, everyone wants to be near the beach. So there is some variation between that. But there's some that are not so much. But there is some small analysis we can make from this. But with this in mind, we want to know maybe how is location rating affected by rating, right? Because it's not all location that we base this on, but it might be other factors that are part of that rating, overall rating. Because it might be a location, but we don't see that all the time though, that this is happening. So we're going to be using a model. So this is our first one. So we're going to be using an advanced statistical model on this data set. So we're going to be using specifically graphically weighted regression. We wrote a whole blog post about this one. It's basically able to show influences between points that are near each other. But again, this is a very overview of this model. I don't want to go into it very much, but definitely check out the blog post. We break it down as much as we can. And again, the slides will be available to everyone. And specifically, we're going to integrate this model with this SQL query here. So exactly how we did before, we have a SQL query that we've configured and made, so you can easily be able to do it. Our Carto Analytics Toolbox, we use this function. We're basically calling this table here, and we're saying, hey, how does overall rating affect these specific columns? Value versus price rating, playlist rating, location rating, and then we're defining the H3 variance right here. As easy as that, you can run your model. As you see here, cleanliness rating. And I think the crucial part of this analysis we're doing right now is just the location rating, and we're going to compare the overall rating to this. So we're going to copy this squeeze SQL, and then go back to our Carto Builder. And then from here, we're going to add source from. We're going to go, again, back to our custom query SQL, back to checking, make sure we're in the right connection where our data is, clicking on it, type your SQL, back to the SQL editor, full screen just to make sure we're getting the correct SQL in, putting it in, checking that our SQL works up there, and then just running it. And right there, you see the data connection right there. And as simple as that, we have our model run, as you can see here. So it should be right on top of the current H3 gems that we have because it's layer C up there. So we're just going to rename this just so we don't mix up these layers. As easy as that, GW3, H3 gems. So let's look into this data set a bit more. So we go to 3 dots here. We actually can see the data instead of just displaying it. And we can see what we actually created from this model. So we see the H3 IDs here, but we also see the relationship between each of these columns and the overall rating. So the higher the relation, the more closely that they're connected together. So maybe in an area that has a very high overall rating, maybe it's because it's location-based instead of cleanliness, and in other places it's more cleanliness. So each of these columns represent that relationship, and for all the data scientists out there, like here is the actual you can configure it so it maybe is more accurate or less accurate depending on that. So in that column is more. So with this in mind, and again, we're focusing on location rating. This is what we want to analyze. So we go to the same palette, style it, and we're going to say location rating based on this rating. We're going to set the steps again, and we're going to pick the palette as we did before. So to break it down, if the red ones, they're more related to location. So if we zoom in, we can see using the legend, which is in the top one right here. This has way more relationship to the ones that have negative. They have no relationship at all to locations of it at all. But we still have a problem right now. We have two H3 genomes right on top of each other, right? That's not very helpful in our analysis because we have this model and we have the current H3 genomes here. So what we want to do is we want to see the difference between these two ones. Because one, we have how high the location rating, and the other one is the relationship between the two. So let's get these analyses going quickly. Doing a split view. So in this split view, you can see here, you can split the maps by layers. So in one, we're going to pick our H3 genome here. You can turn it off. We're going to turn off our GW3 analysis model from here, turn it off. And so right now, our H3 genomes are here. And then we go to this one again, we turn on our H3 genome. So here's our model, there's our H3 genomes. And in split view, if you move the map, both maps get moved at the same time. And if you zoom in and you highlight certain genomes, you actually be able to, they both get highlighted in both of these maps. So as you can see here, they get highlighted and moved over here as well. So let's focus in on some of these to see how this analysis will help us figure out, get some more insight from this data set. So let's pick the highest rating on location. So it would be right there in the red. You can see these were rated very highly. Yeah, let's focus on this one. And we can see that this one has some relationship. The overall rating has some relationship with the location. As easy as that. So you can compare the two together, like this one and this one. This is very location-based, why it's rated so highly. And we use that using our model. And you can keep going around, like this one has not a lesser rating, but the lesser rating, but it is partly location-based why it isn't. So on the opposite side of things, maybe the location of this Airbnb listings aren't that great, even though they're really close to each other. So that's something to look into. Another way that we're able to get more, extract more analysis from this. So from here, let's take it up even another level. We're going to be enriching this data set with some of our data sets from the data catalog. So we removed the split view. We removed our model for now, and we're just keeping our H3 genomes for now. And then from here, we're going to go to our data catalog. We go back to our workspace, and then right there, we're going to go to the data observatory, which allows us, that has our spatial data catalog. And this catalog has premium data sets, public data sets from all different providers. We provide from transportation, and you can get it immediately with your account, and then you're able to put them into your map very easily. So for our particular example, which we want to take this data set and put it into our map, we're going to look for something within the United States, because Los Angeles is in the United States, and something that has maybe urbanity or population density and some tourism. So we're going to pick the United States. We're going to use public data so you can easily access this. And then we'll use Carto as the provider. And then from here, we're going to look at what we have, which right here, luckily, we have spatial features for H3 resolution, which is exactly what we're doing. H3, and we're having H3 data set here. So let's click on it. And when you click on it, you get a preview of the data set, and it tells you what key variables exist within here. So it breaks it down for you, so you don't have to look for all the key data sets or the specific columns you want. And you click on the data, you actually get to see a preview of the data and how it looks and what are the columns for it. These are the first 10 rows. You can quickly see them. And then subscription is as easy as just clicking this button. You just click subscription, you agree to the license that you're used to this, confirm the subscription. And again, keep this in mind, we're going right back to our Data Explorer because I want to enunciate that, like, we really try to make it as easy as possible, and Data Explorer is where all your data is going to be. So if you ever have an idea, Data Explorer, you have a new tab, Data Observatory, and then subscription, and then spatial features are going to be right there in your subscriptions, and if you subscribe to multiple ones, it'll be right there. So we have our data now in our file. We can access it by clicking the top right. You can actually get the SQL to get this data set. So if you use a custom query, you can actually get the data set there. But this data set's actually humongous. It's the whole of the United States with H3. So we're actually going to create tile sets for this. So for anyone that doesn't know about tile sets is instead of just using a normal table, a tile set allows you to display at a very high performance level large data sets. And so creating tile sets is very easy in Carto. You just click this, create, and then you can create a map, but the table is humongous, it's the whole United States. You just click a button and you can create a tile set just like that. And so exactly similar to our import process, you can name the data set, you can put this into your connection, again, because of our cloud native features. You can, if you don't want to work with Carto or you want to do some analysis for it, you can just put it into your cloud data warehouse just to create this data set. We're going to put it in this project here. And then we're going to name it. And then we're going to save it in there. And as I said before, for tile sets, the reason why they're so efficient is because of zoom levels. So what they do is they display features at a zoom level base. So right here, we're setting that zoom level. So anything above this, it won't get displayed at certain zoom levels. And you can also see the SQL query again, because this is what we're doing on our side. And if you really want to, you can configure it yourself. But again, the UI can do that for you. So for this example, we're going to be using the UI just to make it easier for everyone. Clear that. And then let's set the zoom level. We're going to set it so 12 is the maximum of the zoom level. And then we're going to set it to 7. And then from here, we're picking what columns we want to use for this tile set. So we have a search bar. We're going to be picking tourism because this will affect the location rating of an Airbnb listings. We're going to pick urbanity, like where it is. Maybe it's a rural, high-dense area, and then the total population within this, the area of the Airbnb listings. But there might be more people there. That might affect the rating. So again, we get a preview of where this is going to get headed, and we just put create. And then just like up here, you can continue using Carto while this gets created into the background. As you see here, you click the top, like it does here, and you see that it's getting worked in the background. So while that gets created, actually we already have it pre-created for us, so we don't have to wait anymore for this. You can just click on the tile set, and this looks a little bit different from the normal data table that we saw before in the data preview. You can see that we have a sample data set up here, and then we have exactly the zoom levels that we've set for this specific tile set, and the count of the total amount of features already in this tile set, and more metadata in case you want to see like if you created it properly, or if you want to just recreate it yourself for different purposes, so you can distinguish between them here. So we have our tile set in our data set, right? So let's actually put it into the map we're working on, right? We did all this way. So let's actually use it. So easy again, add source from. And instead of custom query this time, because we already have the data set available to us, we're just going to put table and tile set, go to our connection we're going to be using for this. And then going into and getting our tile set. going to the project. Right there's a tile set, and then adding the source. And as quick as that, we can see that we scroll to the bottom, we have the new source from there, and we have a new layer. But we can't see our tile sets, right? Because we mentioned that it's by zoom level, right? So we have to zoom in into the area that we're working with to actually see the tile sets we configured. So you can see the zoom level by going to the zoom column here. We see we're at zoom level 4, level 5. We'll keep zooming it in. And even though we can't see it, the tile set is for the whole of the United States. That's why it's zoomed all the way out, because that's what it's showing. So we keep zooming in. One more. And you can see it got generated here, like tile sets are getting generated, and you see the whole tile set, as you saw before. So at 8, we're able to finally get the tile set to show up. See, and right here, you can see the tile sets are getting generated, just to make sure that you know that they're getting generated in this way. So let's look into this a little bit more. So again, more options, layer styling. Oh wait, but yes, first we have to rename it, just to make sure that our layers are, we understand all our layers. And then let's style this just to get some understanding of this data set, right? Because we just imported it. So we're just going to do a color based, and we're going to do population, urbanity. And then you can see in Los Angeles with this data set, like, of course, in the core, it's very highly dense area, while out here, it's very rural. So it's similar to our normal table. We can just quickly make a map out of this from this data set alone to give you some idea of what's going on. So for this particular example, we're actually going to turn off the opacity, because we're going to actually use this information and see the geomes from our original Airbnb listings to see maybe if something has a very high rating, maybe it has a high density, or it has a high population. So we just layered, and remember the tile sets are over these geome IDs. So if we zoom in and we want to look into that specific geome, we can see that there's a population of this many people, or this is how dense it is, as you can see there. And tiles are getting rendered, and you can see here. This is how we can get the specific geomes and get more input, or get more understanding of why maybe they're that way. As you can see here, high density, maybe there's a bunch of POIs, tourism points around there, maybe that explains why the location rating is really great. And then from here, we're going to take this even a step further, besides just showing it on the map. We're going to be using this data set to actually get some widgets, which is another way to be able to interact with your data set. So again, we have our layer, but we also have our widget section, which right here we're going to use our tile set, which is on layer D. We click on the layer. And then we have different types of widgets available for you. So we have formula, category, histogram, timetable, and the table, time series and the table. So for this one, let's do the total population within our map. So we're able to see how many people actually live within this area. So we're going to put sum, and we're going to use the population. Just click that, and you can see there our widget got formed with this amount of numbers in it. Let's rename it so people know that this represents the total population. And then you see that it's a badly formatted population, as you can see there. That's not very user-friendly, and that's not how we see population numbers. So we do have formatting for this down here. And let's choose like this one, just to get a little more into the depths of it. So it's just 1 million, a lot more friendly formatting, so you understand the population of it. And really quickly, because these widgets are interactive actually with your map. So if you move around your map, it shows the total population that exists when the map goes. So if you zoom out, it moves to the total population that's showing in the map, and if you zoom all the way in to a specific area, it'll regenerate with the total population that it sees on the map. So it's like if you want to do some analysis for this, that's another way to do that with widgets. So let's create another widget. So we go back, we use our tile set data set again, and then we go to the sum again, but this time around, let's use POIs. Because we want to see maybe if there's a lot of red, which are like better location rating in the geo, maybe it's because of POIs. Maybe there's just it's a big tourism area. And so the location for people matter a lot. So we put tourism, and you can see here, where it says a little red, there's 183 POIs within that area, which maybe that's the relationship between the two. That's why the ratings are really high. So we change it to tourism POIs, and if you scroll around, and very quick, you can see that it got changed into that. They dynamically change as we scroll around to this area. So you can see in the blue area, there's a lot less POIs. Maybe that's why people don't really care about the location in those areas. So let's go back. And then let's get another widget. And this time around, we're going to be using a category widget instead this time. So we can click on category here. And then we're going to be using our, this time around, we're going to focus on urbanity. So maybe we saw population, but maybe there's a relationship between, there's more insight we can get between not just a hyper dense area, but a medium dense area. So if we scroll around again, the map will actively change. You can see that they're broken down into different categories within the tile set themselves. So like if you scroll around, you can see it changes based on what's available in the map and what dense areas are there. As you can see there. And then finally, our final widget. Because we've been doing a lot of things about the tile set, but we actually want to see what Airbnb listings are actually on the map themselves. So again, we name our widget so people know that it's urbanity levels. And then we're going to get our last widget, which is our table widget. Let me just fast forward to that really quickly. Right there. And instead of the tile set, we're going to be using sorry about that. There we go. We're going to be using our Airbnb, the original Airbnb listings, to be able to see what is in there, and we're going to use the table widget for this. So the table widget actually shows you the points that are showing on the map, and specifically all the columns that we do. And you can configure the columns as well. So on the left, we don't care about Carto ID. We don't want to show this to a user. So we care about score locations, price numbers. So you can configure this into here. As you can see here. So we care about reduced locations and score ratings and the price number, just in case people are interested in maybe there's a difference in pricing within these listings. And also really quickly, you can also change the amount of rows that are shown when you see the map. So you can say like 5 or 10 really quickly. See, as you see here, you can change it. And then more rows are here, but these are the ones that immediately are showing up. You can do them by ordering, by the price number. You just toggle those columns here. Let's rename this. And these are the listings that we're seeing on the map themselves. Just because we don't want to just see the data that we enrich this data set with, we also want to see the Airbnb listings we're looking at here. And so we move around. We see these data sets change at the same time. So let's finally name our final map, because we've done 2. 2 maps already. This is our final map. We're going to put Airbnb location reading analysis. And then it gets updated, and that's the name of our map. So finally, let's actually share this map with the world, right? We spent a lot of time making it, and we spent all these widgets, so we want everyone to do it. And just very quickly, as also on the side, besides just zooming in and out, you can actually use the Lasso tool to actually like hone in on some areas. So if you click Lasso, but you can also polygons, rectangles, or circles. You click Lasso, and you see here, you can draw around the point that you want. As you see here. If you want to focus on this specific area, it'll filter it out right away. So, and it'll move all the widgets accordingly to that, as you can see here. So even if we scroll around, it doesn't matter if we're only focusing on that. You can actually edit the mask as well too. If you're not happy with it, you can just edit it right away. So, and then you can just remove it and get back to your map as you had it before. So again, back to sharing this map. So it's easy as clicking the share button up there at the top right. And then you can just leave it as private. As default, every map is private because you're working on it, but you can put it into the organization that you're working in. So if you have other users, you can share it with them. But for this, we're going to put a public map. You have the copy of the public share that we're going to copy here, but if we have iframes as well, if you want to put it on the website, you open a new link, and then we just copy that URL, and this will be available for anyone if you open it, and there's our map displayed, our widgets are there, and this is what users will see. As easy as that, we just shared a map and created a map for everyone to see. Yep, and that's our example. And let me go back to the slides really quickly. Okay. Okay, and that's the examples. Does anyone have any questions about any of the things we went over?
I see no questions.
Okay. And really quickly, if you want to request a demo or anything, definitely reach out. We definitely want to learn your use cases, and we'll be able to figure out what's the best way to do it. And then again, we really recommend creating a free trial account. It's free, and you can just try out the platform, and it comes with a Carto data warehouse ready for you to use. So we find it really helpful. And if you want these slides, please reach out to Cole, and you'll get your email. We'll forward that all to you, so you can create this example whenever you want to and get more understanding of what you need. Sounds great? All right, thank you so much, guys.